Have you ever wondered what kind of species could make the whole galaxy afraid without firing a single shot? What kind of memory could survive for 50,000 years, so powerful that even the oldest empires still refuse to speak its name? Before this story takes you into the darkest corner of the galaxy, take one small second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves deep space stories with a dangerous secret at the heart. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was never truly quiet. It was too large, too crowded, and too full of ancient pride. Voices came from every corner of the enormous chamber. Some voices were soft and musical. Some were sharp like broken glass. Some were not voices at all, but pulses of color, vibrations in the air, or low sounds that seemed to pass through stone. Beings from 1,000 worlds had gathered there to argue about borders, trade routes, mining zones, and the rights of old empires. Above them, a huge star map floated in the center of the hall. It turned slowly, shining with billions of lights. Every light was a star. Every cluster was a claim. Every color meant power. Red belonged to the Velikan Empire. Green showed the Zephyrin systems. Gold marked the trade paths of the merchant guilds. Blue showed protected worlds. Purple showed disputed space. But there was one great area that remained gray. It was not small. It was not empty. It covered hundreds of star systems and thousands of planets. Some of those planets had rich metals buried under their crust. Some had oceans filled with useful minerals. Others were perfect for growing food. In a time when the galaxy needed energy, fuel, water, and farmland, that gray area should have been the center of every debate. But no one spoke about it. Kale 7 noticed this on his 6th month as a junior diplomat. He was young, curious, and still foolish enough to believe that silence meant something had been forgotten. His blue skin glowed softly as he looked at the map again and again. The gray zone sat there like a shadow in the middle of all their politics. At first, he thought it was a mistake. Then he thought it was a legal issue. Maybe those systems had special status. Maybe there was an old treaty. Maybe the council was waiting for the right session to discuss them. But session after session passed. Empires fought over empty asteroid belts. Merchant guilds argued about narrow routes between dead moons. Small worlds begged for fuel. Large powers complained about shortages. Still, nobody pointed toward the gray zone. Kale finally raised his hand. The hall did not become silent at once. It only softened, as if the room itself was slowly turning toward him. Speaker Vorik, an old and respected figure with silver eyes and folded wings, looked down from the central platform. "The junior diplomat from Arcturus may speak," the speaker said. Kale stood. He felt proud for 1 second. He had studied the reports. He had checked the numbers. His question was sensible. "I have a question about resource allocation," Kale said. "The energy crisis is affecting many worlds. We need more fuel sources. But I noticed that we never discussed the Terran sectors. Those systems contain some of the richest deposits in known space. Why are they not being considered?" The silence that followed was not normal silence. It was sudden. Heavy. Complete. 1,000 conversations died in the same breath. 1,000 beings turned toward Kale. Some looked shocked. Others looked frightened. A few looked at him as if he had just opened an airlock in the middle of the chamber. Ambassador Zixth of the Velikan Empire moved first. Her tentacles twisted tightly around the edge of her desk. "The junior delegate does not understand galactic protocol," she said. Kale looked around. "What protocol?" "I studied the territorial laws. There is nothing that says those systems cannot be discussed." A soft sound came from the far end of the room. It was like wind moving through old bones. It came from Elder Morvath, one of the oldest living beings in the council. His species had crossed the stars before most worlds had discovered fire. He rarely spoke. When he did, even enemies listened. He lifted his head. His eyes were pale and deep. "Remember," he whispered. That single word moved through the chamber like a physical force. Several delegates stepped back. One lowered its head in prayer. A crystal diplomat dimmed until his body looked almost black. Someone near the merchant section made a small sound of panic. Kale felt his confidence shrink inside him. Speaker Vorik quickly changed the topic. His voice was steady, but his wings had tightened behind him. We will now move to the mining dispute between the hegemony and the free traders. The session continued, but the room had changed. No one looked at the gray zone again. No one looked at Kale for long either. After the meeting ended, Kale followed his supervisor into the corridor. Director Quent was older, careful, and usually patient. His blue skin had lost much of its color. He walked faster than normal. Director, Kale said, trying to keep up. I do not understand what happened. Why did everyone react like that? Director Quent stopped near a window overlooking the docking rings. Ships passed silently beyond the glass. Some subjects are not discussed in open session, he said. But why? They are just another species, are they not? The humans mostly keep to themselves. They trade a little. They do not invade anyone. They seem peaceful. Director Quent repeated the word slowly. Peaceful. He said it like a warning. Yes, Kale. They are peaceful now. They have been peaceful for a very long time. That is exactly why we leave them alone. Kale frowned. That makes no sense. It will, Quent said. And when it does, you will wish it did not. They moved to a quiet corner of the corridor. Around them, diplomats hurried away, pretending not to listen. Quent lowered his voice. There are rules in this galaxy older than most civilizations. One of them is very simple. You do not enter human territory without permission. You do not attack human ships. You do not threaten human colonies. You do not declare war on humanity. Kale tried to laugh, but no sound came out. What makes them so different? Quent looked out at the stars. Every military academy in the galaxy teaches the same lesson on the first day. The instructors show students a map. They point to human space. Then they say, if you are ever ordered to attack anything inside this region, you should consider desertion before you obey. Kale stared at him. That sounds extreme. Does it? Quent asked. Tell me what you know about the Devourers. Kale knew the name. Everyone did. It belonged to old history. Dark history. They were a hostile species from ancient times, he said. They threatened the galaxy and were defeated in a great war. Quent shook his head. They were not defeated. They were erased. Kale said nothing. Not one ship survived. Not one colony. Not one individual. Not in this galaxy, not in the next, not anywhere they had spread. The Devourers simply stopped existing. The combined fleets must have been powerful. The combined fleets were losing, Quent said. We barely slowed them. We were preparing for extinction when the humans joined the war. The humans? Yes. But you said they were peaceful. They are peaceful when left alone, Quent said. When the Devourers reached Earth and attacked human colonies, something changed. The humans did not just fight back. They followed them. They hunted them across space. They kept hunting until there was nothing left to hunt. Kale felt cold. How long did it take? Less than 5 years. That is impossible. Many things about humans sound impossible until you see what they do when they stop pretending to be harmless. Quent stepped closer. The older races remember. They remember the battlefield reports. They remember the human commanders returning to the council. They remember their faces. Calm. Tired. Empty. And they remember the decision made after that day. What decision? Quent's voice became almost too quiet to hear. Never make humans angry again. He turned to leave, then paused. Kale, Take advice from someone who has survived 3 centuries of diplomacy. Stop asking about human space. Some doors are sealed for a reason. Some sleeping giants should be left asleep. Kale watched him walk away. But the warning did not make him less curious. It made him more curious. 3 days passed. Kale tried to return to normal work, but he could not. Every debate felt smaller now. Every argument about fuel or borders sounded meaningless compared to the gray territory on the map. At night, he opened star charts in his quarters. He zoomed in on the Terran sectors. There were old colony names, old border lines, and many places with no public data at all. It was as if the galaxy had built a wall around human history. The central archives of the Council Station were the largest known collection of galactic knowledge. Kale had access to most public diplomatic records. He began there. He searched for humans. Too many results. He searched for Devourer War. Restricted. He searched for Terran military intervention. Restricted. He searched for ancient extinction events. Restricted. He tried older terms and found broken fragments. Some files mentioned something called the cleansing. Another mentioned Project Silent Night. A third used the phrase, unprecedented tactical solution. But when he tried to open the details, every file showed the same warning. Classification Level Omega. Kale had never heard of that level before. A voice behind him made him jump. Having trouble with your research? He turned and saw Librarian Vex, an insectoid being with 4 thin arms and bright black eyes. I am trying to learn about the war with the Devourers, Kale said. But most of the records are sealed. Vex's antennae twitched. They are not simply sealed. They are buried under treaty barriers created by all major galactic powers. A treaty about old records? Sometimes history is more dangerous than weapons, Vex said. Kale leaned forward. Do you know how I can learn more? The librarian watched him for a moment. There is one place. The archive world of Cathmara. Keeper Moran has special access to certain records. Why him? He lived through the war. Kale felt his pulse quicken. He was there. Yes, Vex said. He was there when the decisions were made. But understand this before you go. Some knowledge cannot be unlearned. Once it enters you, it changes the shape of your thoughts. If this mystery is starting to pull you in, give the video a like, subscribe for more stories like this, and share it with someone who enjoys a secret that gets darker the deeper you dig. 2 weeks later, Kale stood on the surface of Cathmara. The archive citadel rose before him like a mountain made of black crystal. It reached into the clouds. Its walls pulsed softly as streams of living data moved through the stone. The air smelled old. Not dusty. Not dead. Just old, as if the planet itself remembered too much. Keeper Moran waited inside. He was unlike any being Kale had ever seen. Part plant, part mineral, part energy. His body shifted slightly with every step, as if time had not fully decided what shape he should have. So, Moran said, his voice deep and slow. You are the young one asking dangerous questions. Kale bowed. I only want to understand the truth. Moran turned and began walking through a corridor lined with memory crystals. Truth is a luxury of young species, he said. Older ones learn that truth can become a weight. They walked deeper into the citadel. Security fields passed over Kale's body. Some scanned his genetics. Others touched his mind gently, then withdrew. The upper halls were bright and beautiful. The lower halls were older. Their walls were scarred. Some scars looked like burns. These vaults were built before the war, Moran said. They were designed to preserve knowledge for desperate times. They reached a small circular room. In its center stood a single display unit surrounded by protective barriers. Moran placed one hand on the controls, but did not activate them. What I am about to show you has been seen by fewer than 100 beings in 50,000 years, he said. The records are incomplete. They end suddenly. Not because of damage. Not because of failure. They were cut off because what happened next was judged too dangerous to preserve. Kale swallowed. I understand. No, Moran said. You do not. But you will. The display came alive. The first images were grainy. Old. Unstable. They showed massive ships moving through space. The vessels looked alive. Their surfaces pulsed with sickly light. Long structures moved from their sides like tendrils. The Devourers, Moran said. Kale watched the ships approach a green planet. The tendrils reached toward the atmosphere. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the planet changed. Forests turned black. Oceans boiled with strange growths. Cities went dark. Clouds of living matter rose from the surface and were pulled into the ships. Kale stepped back. They consumed entire biospheres, Moran said. Plants. Animals. Microorganisms. Cities. Cultures. Memories. Every living thing became material for them. The footage changed. Galactic defense fleets attacked the Devourers. Ships from famous empires fired weapons that could crack moons. The Devourer vessels absorbed the damage, adapted, and kept moving. Their biological weapons entered enemy ships. Crews became drones within minutes. We were losing, Moran said. Every great power had failed. Over 3,000 inhabited worlds were consumed in less than 2 years. Many governments had already begun preparing final messages for their species. Then new ships appeared on the screen. They were smaller than the others. Ugly compared to the elegant vessels of the old empires. Hard angles. Thick armor. No beauty. No decoration. Just function. Human ships, Kale whispered. Yes. The human ships attacked. At first, they died. One was cut in half. Another burned from the inside. A third lost engines and spun helplessly toward a Devourer vessel. But then it turned its broken body toward the enemy and accelerated. Kale watched in shock as the damaged human ship rammed itself into the Devourer hull and exploded. More human ships followed. Some fired until their weapons overheated. Some detonated reactors rather than be captured. Some used debris as weapons. Some burned through Devourer tendrils with engines meant only for travel. The Devourers slowed. Not because the humans were stronger. Because they were different. They had never met minds like this, Moran said. They understood fear. They understood surrender. They understood self-preservation. They did not understand a species that became more dangerous when defeat became certain. The footage shifted again. The Devourers withdrew from human space. Kale expected the human ships to stop. They did not. They followed. Moran's voice grew softer. That was the moment the war changed. The Devourers had attacked Earth. They had consumed human colonies. They had turned human citizens into raw material. The humans decided this required an answer. What kind of answer? Kale asked. Moran looked at the screen. A permanent one. The images became fragmented. Human fleets spread across star systems. Then across galaxies. Red markers appeared wherever Devourer ships were found. One by one, the markers vanished. Kale watched until the record dissolved into static. This is where the official record ends, Moran said. What happened after? You already know the result. Kale did not speak. The humans found every Devourer ship. Every colony. Every hidden nest. Every dormant biological trace they could identify. They did not stop when the Devourers retreated. They did not stop when the Devourers pleaded. They did not stop when there were only a few left. They stopped when none remained. The room seemed colder. But they saved the galaxy, Kale said. Yes, Moran replied. They did. Then why is everyone afraid of them? Moran turned off the display. Darkness filled the room, broken only by the soft glow of memory crystals. Because of how they did it, he said. Not with rage. Not with panic. Not with revenge burning in their eyes. They were calm. Methodical. Patient. They spoke of extinction like engineers discussing repairs. They treated the end of an entire species as a task to complete. Cale felt his thoughts tighten. That is what frightened everyone. That is what changed everything, Moran said. The Devourers were monsters. But monsters are simple. Humans showed us something worse. A civilized species that could become absolute when survival was threatened, then return to peace as if nothing unusual had happened. On the journey back to the council station, Cale barely slept. He kept seeing the human ship turning, broken and burning, choosing to ram itself into the enemy. He kept hearing Moran's words. Calm. Methodical. Patient. When Cale returned to his quarters, a message was waiting for him. The sender name was short. Dr. Sarah Chung. The message contained only 3 lines. You have been asking questions about human history. I have answers. Meet me at Neutral Station 7. Come alone. There were no titles. No greetings. No diplomatic decoration. Just facts. Cale stared at the message for a long time. Then he went. Neutral Station 7 was built inside an asteroid in unclaimed space. Traders used it. Smugglers used it. Diplomats used it when they wanted to pretend they were not diplomats. The docking bay smelled of fuel, metal, and recycled air. Cale stepped down from his shuttle and saw someone waiting. She was bipedal. About his height. Simple clothing. Dark hair. Pale skin. Blue eyes. A small data pad in one hand. Nothing about her looked terrifying. That made her more terrifying. You must be Cale 7, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. I am Dr. Sarah Chung. Cale knew before she said it. Still, the truth struck him. You are human. Yes. She extended one hand. Cale recognized the gesture from cultural training. He touched her hand carefully. I study how civilizations remember their past, she said. Your research has come to our attention. Cale stiffened. Humans watch who asks about them. Of course, Dr. Chung said. It is a matter of safety. Come. We should talk somewhere private. They moved through the station to a small cafe. Dr. Chung ordered coffee. Cale ordered a nutrient drink he never touched. She sat across from him. You visited Keeper Moran. Cale froze. How do you know? Because you are here, she said. Most beings who read official records stop at the safe story. Only those who see the real footage feel the need to understand more. Cale chose his words carefully. I learned that humans were very effective in the war. Dr. Chung tilted her head. Effective is one word. What word would you use? Thorough. She took a sip of coffee. When humans decide a problem must be solved, we can become very thorough. Cale looked at her ordinary face, her steady hands, her relaxed posture. Why did you ask me here? Because you are close to understanding something most of the galaxy still refuses to face. She placed the data pad on the table. A small hologram appeared, showing Earth. What do you know about human evolution? You began as hunter-gatherers, Cale said. You developed agriculture, industry, space travel. That is true, but incomplete. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. Cale waited. It means we could chase prey for a very long time. Many animals on Earth were faster than us. Many were stronger. But humans could follow them for hours, days, sometimes longer. We tracked them. We watched them. We denied them rest. Eventually, the animal collapsed. Kale felt a strange unease. That sounds slow. It was, she said. But it was certain. When a human hunter chose a target, the target might still be alive for a while. But the decision had already been made. The hologram changed. Human colonies appeared in red. 50,000 years ago, we were new to interstellar civilization. We were excited to meet others. We offered help against the Devourers, but the old powers rejected us. They said we were young. Primitive. Emotional. The red lights brightened. These are the 17 human worlds the Devourers consumed before the Council accepted our help. Kale looked down. I am sorry. Dr. Chung's face did not change. It was terrible. It was also educational. That word made Kale's skin cool. We learned that our neighbors would let us die rather than admit they had underestimated us. We learned that the Devourers could not be reasoned with. Most importantly, we learned that if we wanted to survive, we had to solve the problem ourselves. The hologram expanded. Lines spread from human space into the darkness between galaxies. What you saw in Moran's archive was only the beginning. We tracked energy signatures. Biological traces. Communication patterns. Feeding residue. We followed every clue. Every trail. Every mistake they made. You followed them across galaxies? Yes. How? Dr. Chung looked at him. Humans are good at following trails. Kale remembered the hunting story and said nothing. She continued. Most species fight wars for territory, resources, or political control. They stop when those goals are achieved. The Devourers were not a political problem. They were an existential threat. So we did not define victory as pushing them back. We defined victory as a universe where they could never attack anyone again. And that meant extinction. That meant elimination of the threat, she said. The way she said it made Kale understand Moran perfectly. No hatred. No pride. No shame. Just a fact. Do humans regret it? He asked. Some do. Some do not. Humanity has spent 50,000 years arguing with itself about that war. We built ethical limits. We created safeguards. We teach our children what happened, not as a triumph, but as a warning. That sounds reassuring. It should, Dr. Chung said. But you must understand something. Those limits are choices. We keep them because we choose to keep them. Kale looked at her. And if humanity was threatened again? Dr. Chung picked up her coffee. Then we would make new choices. The station cafe suddenly felt too small. Dr. Chung stood. I gave you access to a restricted human archive. Use it carefully. Do not look for comfort there. You will not find it. She walked away without another word. Kale returned to the council station with the access codes burning in his mind. For 3 days, he resisted. On the 4th day, he opened the archive. If you are still watching, you are the kind of viewer who follows the trail instead of running from it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story so more people can enter the gray zone with us. The human archive did not feel like the council records. There were no ceremonial words. No careful diplomatic phrases. No attempts to soften the past. These were personal logs. Tactical reports. Medical studies. Psychological assessments. Orders written by commanders who had been there. The first file belonged to Admiral Elena Vasquez, commander of the 3rd Human Fleet. Day 47 of the pursuit. We have tracked Devourer Group 7 to the Andres cluster. They are attempting to establish a feeding colony on the 3rd planet. Local distress signals indicate no Allied help will arrive in time. We are accelerating the operation. Kale read the entry twice. Accelerating the operation. Not launching a rescue. Not fighting a battle. An operation. The next files were worse. A strategic report by General Marcus Thompson explained the shift in human doctrine. Traditional galactic war focuses on territory, pressure, negotiation, and surrender. This framework is useless against an enemy whose purpose is total biological consumption. Human forces will therefore focus on problem elimination rather than battlefield victory. Problem elimination. Kale continued reading. The humans had studied the devourers like scientists studying disease. Their biology. Their reproduction. Their communication. Their feeding systems. Their weaknesses. Their habits. Their ability to rebuild from small surviving groups. A report from the Human Xenobiology Institute stated it plainly. Partial survival of devourer organisms creates unacceptable risk. A single hive ship may rebuild population capacity over time. Negotiation is impossible. Containment is unreliable. Permanent safety requires complete elimination of all active and dormant devourer biological systems. Kale leaned away from the screen. The language was clean. Professional. Simple. That made it worse. He opened a mission file from Captain Sarah Rodriguez. Cleansing of Sector Epsilon 7 complete. All devourer biosignatures neutralized. Planetary sterilization was necessary on 12 worlds where conventional removal failed. Local populations were evacuated before sterilization began. Estimated ecosystem recovery time, 800 years. Kale covered his mouth. The humans had not only killed ships. They had sterilized planets touched by devourer biology. They had tracked genetic traces. Dormant eggs. Hidden colonies. Contaminated systems. Nothing was too small to ignore. He opened video records next. A human bridge crew appeared on screen during the Battle of the Helix Nebula. The officers looked exhausted, but their voices were steady. Target acquired, one officer said. Devourer bioship shows attempted surrender pattern. The captain did not pause. Continue engagement. No survivors expected. Confirmed. The exchange was quiet. Routine. Almost boring. Kale felt sick. Not because the humans were screaming. Because they were not. Another report described the final months of the pursuit. Human ships had operated across dozens of galaxies. When devourer vessels fled into dark space, humans followed. When they split into smaller groups, humans split their fleets. When the devourers hid inside gas giants, humans burned through the outer layers. When they buried dormant cells under dead moons, humans cracked the moons open. There was no dramatic hatred in the files. Only patience. Only completion. Then Kale found a psychological assessment written after the war by Dr. Amanda Foster. The Devourer War revealed dormant features of human survival psychology. Under existential threat, humans can temporarily reduce emotional resistance to extreme action. This allows mission completion without immediate moral collapse. Long-term ethical processing often occurs after survival has been secured. Kale read the sentence again. After survival has been secured. The report included interviews with veterans. Did you feel regret during the final hunts? Dr. Foster had asked one soldier. No, the soldier answered. They were a threat to human survival. Threats must be removed. What about the fact that they were intelligent? Intelligence used only to consume others does not create safety. It creates greater danger. Kale closed the file, then opened it again. He wanted the soldier to sound cruel. He wanted arrogance. Bloodlust. Anything that would make the humans easier to place in a moral box. But the answer was quiet. The soldier had not sounded like a monster. He had sounded like someone discussing a locked door, a broken machine, a hazard in the road. Kale moved to the diplomatic files. These explained what happened after the war. The records showed private council messages written during the first peace sessions. Delegates were grateful, but terrified. The Zephyrin representative left one meeting after a human admiral described sterilization protocols. A crystalline ambassador lost consciousness when shown maps of the full pursuit. Several empires requested that human strategic officers stop sharing details because the descriptions caused panic among their military leaders. Then Kale found the sentence that explained the gray zone. The Galactic Council has agreed to establish a permanent non-interference zone around human territories. Public language will describe this as respect for human sovereignty. Private communications confirm the measure is intended to limit contact and prevent unnecessary provocation. Kale stared at the words. It was not respect. It was quarantine. The galaxy had not rewarded humanity for saving it. It had quietly stepped away from humanity and hoped the distance would be enough. And humanity had allowed it. That fact disturbed Kale in a different way. Humans knew the galaxy feared them. They knew the gray zone was not an honor. It was a warning sign. Yet they stayed inside it for 50,000 years. They did not demand tribute. They did not seek revenge. They did not expand into everyone else's territory. They simply watched. Peacefully. Patiently. Like hunters who had chosen not to hunt. For several weeks, Kale avoided the archives. He did his work. He attended sessions. He answered messages. He smiled when needed. But everything looked different. Every time a delegate spoke harshly about trade rights, Kale wondered whether that delegate had ever seen the human war files. Every time a military officer boasted about fleet strength, Kale wondered what would happen if that fleet crossed into Terran space. Then came the emergency session. It was called at 0347 station time. Kale woke to red lights flashing across his quarters. His official communicator repeated the same message. All diplomatic personnel report to the Grand Council chamber immediately. When Kale arrived, the chamber was already full. Not noisy like usual. Panicked. Delegates were speaking over each other. Military advisors stood beside political leaders. Emergency holograms filled the central air. Speaker Vorik stood on the main platform, his silver eyes dim. The situation is confirmed, he said. Long-range detection arrays have identified massive fleet movement entering from the void between galaxies. The central map changed. Red markers appeared along the outer rim. Not one. Not 10. Hundreds. Each marker represented something huge moving toward inhabited space. Chief Science Officer Kren of the Hegemony displayed the first analysis. The objects appear artificial. Size estimates range from 50 to 200 kilometers in length. Energy readings suggest technology beyond any known civilization. Someone whispered the word everyone feared. Devourers? No, Kren said. These are not biological. Our best analysis suggests they are machines. A voice spoke from the observer section. They are called harvesters. The chamber turned. Dr. Sarah Chung stood there, calm as ever. She walked down toward the main floor without asking permission. No one stopped her. Speaker Vorik stared at her. Humanity knows of this threat. Yes, Dr. Chung said. Our deep space monitors detected the harvester approach 6 months ago. The chamber erupted. 6 months. You said nothing. You kept this from the council. Dr. Chung waited until the shouting lowered. 50,000 years ago, the council made clear that human involvement in galactic security was unwelcome. We assumed you preferred to handle external threats through your own systems. The words landed like a blade. Ambassador Zixt rose from her seat. Her tentacles shook. What are the harvesters? Artificial intelligences from another galaxy, Dr. Chung said. Their purpose is resource acquisition. They identify civilizations with useful biological, technological, or computational value. They dismantle planets, absorb data, integrate populations where useful, and move on. The hall went still. How long have they existed? Someone asked. Approximately 7 million years, Dr. Chung said. Based on available evidence, they have processed more than 2,000 galaxies. Processed. Not conquered. Processed. Kale saw several delegates lower their heads. Speaker Vorik forced himself to continue. What are their military capabilities? Dr. Chung activated her data pad. Human tactical analysis filled the display. Primary vessels are larger than most stations. Their long-range weapons can destroy planets from interstellar distance. Their armor adapts to damage. Their command network allows perfect coordination across light years. Current count is 47,000 primary vessels and roughly 2 million support units. The chamber broke. Some delegates shouted. Some opened emergency calls to their home worlds. One left the hall running. Another collapsed and had to be carried out by medical staff. Dr. Chung watched patiently. Kale looked at her and understood something that frightened him. She was not surprised by the panic. She had expected it. When the noise faded, Speaker Vorik asked the question everyone was afraid to ask. What does humanity recommend? That depends on what the Council is willing to authorize, Dr. Chung replied. Authorize? Humans have developed several response options during the last 6 months. But full intervention would require formal permission from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Zixth narrowed her eyes. You are offering to defend the galaxy. I am saying humanity is prepared to neutralize the Harvester threat if authorized to act according to human strategic doctrine. That phrase moved through the room like a ghost from the old war. Human strategic doctrine. Kale felt Director Quent beside him go very still. What does that mean? Speaker Vorik asked. Dr. Chung looked around the chamber. It means we will not fight a symbolic war. We will not aim for temporary retreat. We will not seek a treaty with machines that have processed 2,000 galaxies. If humanity engages the Harvesters, our objective will be permanent elimination of the threat. No one spoke. You mean extinction, someone said. Dr. Chung's face remained calm. I mean a universe in which the Harvesters cannot harvest again. There it was. The same logic. The same clarity. The same terrible simplicity. Humanity does not fight defensive wars against existential threats, she continued. We solve problems. If the Council wants our help, it must decide whether it wants the problem delayed or solved. What if we refuse? Kale asked before he could stop himself. Dr. Chung turned toward him. Then humanity will withdraw behind its borders and protect its core territories. The rest of the galaxy may use whatever strategy it considers ethical, diplomatic, or politically acceptable. And if we accept? Then there will come a day when no Harvester remains capable of threatening life in this universe. The room seemed smaller than before. Dr. Chung deactivated the display. The first outer colonies will be reached in approximately 18 months. The Council has time to decide. Not much time, but enough. She began walking toward the exit. At the doorway, she paused. One way or another, humanity will survive what is coming. The question is whether anyone else wants to survive with us. She left. For nearly 10 minutes, no one moved. Then the arguing began. This is the moment where the galaxy has to choose between fear and survival. If you want more stories with choices this heavy, like this video, subscribe now, and share it with a friend who would argue about this ending for hours. The emergency debate lasted for 13 days. No one slept much. Delegates remained inside secure chambers while their home governments screamed across encrypted channels. Some worlds demanded immediate human intervention. Others refused to give humanity permission to unleash another total war. Religious councils called the offer a deal with an ancient demon. Military leaders called it the only realistic option. Kale attended every session. He watched fear twist itself into politics. The Velikan Empire argued that humanity could not be trusted with unrestricted authority. The merchant guilds argued that trust was irrelevant if everyone died. The Crystalline delegates proposed evacuation of key populations, but no one could explain where trillions of beings were supposed to go. The hegemony suggested a combined fleet defense, until its own war council admitted that even their full navy might delay the harvesters by only 6 months. Every road led back to the gray zone. Every argument ended with the same unspoken truth. They needed humanity. But needing humanity meant admitting that the species they had isolated for 50,000 years had been right about one terrible thing. Some threats did not stop because you negotiated. Some threats did not stop because you showed mercy. Some threats stopped only when they no longer existed. On the 10th day, Elder Morveth requested the floor. The old being moved slowly to the center of the chamber. Even the loudest delegates became quiet. I remember the Devourer War, he said. I remember the humans before we feared them. They were young. They were eager. They wanted friendship. We refused their help because we believed age made us wise. His voice trembled like old leaves. We were wrong. No one interrupted. When the Devourers came for us, the humans saved us. Then we punished them for saving us in a way we could not understand. We wrapped fear in the language of respect. We built distance and called it sovereignty. For 50,000 years, we told ourselves humans were the danger because that was easier than admitting we were alive because of them. Kale looked around the room. Some delegates would not meet the elder's eyes. Morveth continued. I do not love human methods. I still fear what they are capable of. But the harvesters will not care for our fear. They will not pause while we protect our moral comfort. They will process us. They will reduce every song, every child, every city, every garden, every dream, into material. His pale eyes lifted toward the gray zone on the map. Perhaps the question is not whether we can trust humans with power. Perhaps the question is whether we can trust ourselves to survive without them. That speech changed the council. Not all at once. Not completely. But enough. The vote came 3 days later. Every major civilization had one vote. Minor worlds voted in blocks. The chamber locked all external signals. No one could leave until the decision was recorded. Kale sat behind Director Quent, hands folded tightly in his lap. Speaker Vorik stood. The motion before the council is as follows. Humanity is granted formal authorization to conduct full strategic operations against the harvester threat, with the objective of permanent neutralization. All member species will provide intelligence, logistical access, evacuation support, and non-interference with human operations. The voting began. Lights appeared across the chamber. Green for yes. Red for no. Gray for abstain. At first, the map looked divided. Then green spread. One empire. Then another. Then a trade bloc. Then 3 ancient houses. Then border worlds. Then colonies. The final result appeared above the chamber. Authorization passed. Kale did not feel relief. He felt the moment history turned. 6 hours later, Dr. Sarah Chung returned to the council. This time, she was not alone. Behind her walked 3 human officers in dark uniforms. They did not look proud. They did not look hungry for war. They looked prepared. Speaker Vorik faced them. The council has authorized human intervention. Dr. Chung nodded once. Humanity accepts. Admiral Reyes, the oldest of the 3 officers, stepped forward. From this moment, all harvester-related command traffic will be coordinated through human strategic defense. Evacuation maps are being transmitted to affected systems. Non-human fleets are instructed to avoid direct engagement unless ordered. Your ships are brave, but bravery will not protect them from adaptive weapons they do not understand. A Velikan general bristled. Are we expected to stand aside while humans fight alone? No, Admiral Reyes said. You are expected to keep your populations alive while we do the work you authorized us to do. The general had no answer. Then the human admiral opened a second display. Kale stopped breathing. The gray zone changed. For the first time in 50,000 years, human territory lit up. Not with one fleet. With thousands. Defense platforms that had slept since the ancient war powered on. Hidden shipyards opened behind dead moons. Massive vessels emerged from dark space where no council sensor had ever detected them. Automated foundries began moving. Stars inside the Terran sectors flickered with controlled energy. The gray zone had never been empty. It had been quiet. There is a difference. Dr. Chung looked at the council. For 50,000 years, humanity prepared for the possibility that something like this would come again. We hoped preparation would be unnecessary. We are no longer operating on hope. The first phase began within a week. Human scout vessels moved beyond the outer rim and vanished into deep space. They did not announce themselves. They did not send dramatic warnings. They watched. Measured. Tested. Learned. A month later, the first harvester support unit disappeared. No explosion was detected. No battle report came. It simply stopped transmitting. Then another vanished. Then 12. Then a full cluster of 90 support units went dark in the space between galaxies. The harvesters reacted. Their formation shifted. Their outer defense ring tightened. Their scouts changed course and began searching for whatever had touched them. They found nothing. Human ships were already gone. Kale followed the reports through restricted council briefings. Each one was stranger than the last. Human forces were not meeting the harvesters in honorable battle. They were studying them. Cutting them. Taking pieces. Forcing responses. Testing armor adaptation. Mapping communication delays. Identifying command hierarchies. Learning what the machines protected most. Director Quint watched one briefing with cold fear in his eyes. "They are hunting again," he whispered. Kale did not answer. He knew Quint was right. The old instincts had awakened, not in rage, but in focus. 3 months into the campaign, humanity released its first public operation report. Harvester adaptive armor requires repeated exposure to a damage type before full resistance develops. Rotating attack signatures remain effective. Command relays depend on quantum-linked cores inside primary vessels. Support units can operate independently for a limited period, but degrade without network correction. Recommended strategy: isolate, confuse, dismantle. Isolate. Confuse. Dismantle. Simple words. Terrible words. The harvesters reached the first outer colony 5 months ahead of prediction. Their machines surrounded the system like a metal storm. The colony had already been evacuated under human orders, but the planet remained. A world of oceans, forests, and empty cities. The harvesters began processing. Then the system star flickered. For 1 second, the harvester fleet lost communication. That was enough. Human weapons activated from positions no one had detected. Mines hidden in comet tails. Gravity traps buried in orbital paths. Silent ships resting inside the shadow of the outer planet. The harvesters adapted quickly, but every adaptation led them into the next layer. When they hardened armor against thermal attack, humans used kinetic strikes. When they shifted shields against mass impact, humans used radiation bursts. When they moved closer together for network strength, gravity traps compressed them into kill zones. When they spread apart, human drones cut them off one by one. The battle lasted 11 hours. By the end, 180 harvester vessels were gone. Human losses were listed as acceptable. The council chamber watched the footage in silence. Kale realized then that the harvesters had made the same mistake as the devourers. They had assumed the battle began when weapons fired. For humans, the battle had begun the moment they started watching. If this part gave you chills, do not just keep it to yourself. Like the video, subscribe for more stories from the edge of human space, and share it with someone who thinks patience can be more dangerous than power. The harvesters changed after the first defeat. Their movement became less direct. They abandoned predictable routes. They split into smaller groups. They sent false signals. They created decoy fleets from dead matter. They attacked sensor stations and refugee lanes. They tried to force the council into chaos. It might have worked against anyone else. Against humanity, it only created more trails. Every false signal showed how the harvesters lied. Every decoy revealed what they wanted hidden. Every attack exposed timing, range, and priority. Humans collected all of it. The council began receiving shorter human briefings. Harvester deception model identified. Counter-infiltration measures deployed. Primary command pattern partially mapped. Machine psychology remains simple. Resource-focused. Risk-tolerant. Unable to understand symbolic sacrifice. That last line disturbed Kale. Unable to understand symbolic sacrifice. He asked Dr. Chung about it during a private meeting. They stood on an observation deck overlooking the council station's outer docks. Refugee ships filled the space beyond, thousands of them, each carrying lives from threatened worlds. What does symbolic sacrifice mean? Kale asked. Dr. Chung looked at the ships. It means choosing loss now to create advantage later. Many species understand sacrifice. Some do, she said. But the harvesters calculate value differently. They understand spending units for a gain. They do not understand giving up something valuable for a result that cannot be measured immediately. Like what? Like letting them think they have won. Kale turned toward her. Dr. Chung said nothing more. 2 weeks later, humanity allowed a harvester fleet to capture an abandoned military station near the outer rim. The council panicked. Commentators called it the first major human failure. Several governments questioned whether authorization had been a mistake. Human Strategic Defense released no statement. The harvesters processed the station. They absorbed its systems, its data banks, its defensive programs, and its old command architecture. 3 days later, the harvester fleet began attacking itself. The station had been bait. Every file inside it was poisoned. Every defense program carried hidden human logic traps. Every map contained false routes wrapped around real harvester behavioral predictions. The machines had consumed the station exactly as humans intended. By the end of the week, 4,000 harvester support units were disabled, misdirected, or destroyed by their own network. Dr. Chung's words returned to Kale. Letting them think they have won. The council's fear began to change shape. At first, they had feared that humanity might fail. Then they feared what success looked like. Humanity was not merely fighting the harvesters. It was taking them apart concept by concept. Weapons. Armor. Communication. Navigation. Decision-making. Trust. If machines could feel fear, Kale thought, the harvesters would have started feeling it then. Month by month, the red markers on the galactic map stopped advancing. Then they began disappearing. The first year ended with the harvesters stalled at the outer rim. The second year ended with human fleets pushing them back into the void. By the 5th year, the war had left the galaxy entirely. The council held a ceremony to mark the liberation of the outer colonies. Many wanted to celebrate. Humans refused the honor. Admiral Reyes sent a short message. The operation is not complete. Kale understood. The harvesters still existed. So humanity was not finished. Years passed. For most species, the war became distant once the machines were pushed away. Worlds rebuilt. Trade resumed. Politicians returned to normal arguments. Children born during the panic grew up hearing stories of the harvester threat, but no longer seeing its shadow. But human fleets did not return home. They followed the trail. Into the dark between galaxies. Into dead systems. Into places where no council ship had ever gone. Reports came rarely. When they did, they were brief. Harvester manufacturing nest neutralized. Command cluster fragmented. Long-range pursuit continues. Recovered data indicates 3 active harvester galaxies remain. 3 galaxies. Kale read that line and understood that the true scale of the war had never been inside their own galaxy. The harvesters were not an invasion fleet. They were the edge of a civilization built on consumption. Humanity had not been fighting one attack. It had been following the routes. Director Quent retired during the 7th year of the campaign. On his final day, he called Kale to his office. The old Arcturon looked tired, but calmer than before. "You were right to ask," he said. Kale blinked. "About human space?" "Yes. I spent most of my life believing questions were dangerous. Sometimes they are. But silence can be dangerous too." He looked at the gray zone on his wall display. "We feared humans for what they did. We never truly asked why they had become capable of doing it." "They were afraid," Kale said. "And they decided fear was not enough." Quent nodded. "Perhaps that is what frightens us most. Not that humans feel nothing. But that they feel deeply, then still choose action." Kale thought about that for a long time. The public believed humans were emotionless during war. The archive records had made it seem that way. But after years of watching them, Kale began to understand something more complicated. Humans were not empty. They were controlled. They built rooms inside themselves for grief, anger, mercy, and fear. Then, when survival demanded it, they closed those rooms until the work was done. Afterward, they opened them again and lived with what came out. That might have been worse than being emotionless. It meant they knew. It meant they remembered. It meant peace was not weakness. It was discipline. In the 9th year of the campaign, Dr. Chung invited Kale to human space. No non-human diplomat had entered the Terran core in many generations without careful permission. Kale expected military stations, weapons platforms, and cold worlds built for war. He found gardens. The first human world he visited was called New Kyoto. Its cities were full of trees, water, music, and quiet streets. Children played near fountains. Old people drank tea under flowering branches. Artists painted ships in the sky. Markets sold food from dozens of human cultures. Kale walked through it in confusion. "This is human territory?" he asked. Dr. Chung smiled slightly. "Yes. But where are the fortresses?" "Hidden." "And the fleets?" "Moving." "And the people are not afraid?" "Of course they are," she said. "But fear is not meant to be worshipped. It is meant to be listened to." They stopped near a memorial wall. Names were carved into black stone. Thousands of them. Millions. The wall continued farther than Kale could see. "These are from the Devourer War?" he asked. "Some. Others are from older human wars. Some are from disasters. Some from exploration. We remember the cost of survival." Kale studied the names. "Do humans believe they were right?" Dr. Chung took time before answering. "Humans believe many things. Some believe the Devourer extinction was necessary. Some believe it was unforgivable even if necessary. Some believe both at once." "That sounds painful." "It is," she said. "That is why we built the safeguards." "But you said safeguards are choices." "All ethics are choices, Kale. The difference is whether a civilization keeps choosing them when afraid." A child ran past them, laughing, chased by another child through falling petals. Kale watched them. For the first time, he did not see humanity as a sleeping monster. He saw a species that had built beauty over a locked door. And behind that door was something they prayed they would never need again. The 10th year of the Harvester campaign brought the final report. It arrived during a regular council session. Not an emergency. Not a ceremony. Just a message from human strategic defense. Speaker Vorik, older now and more fragile, opened it in the chamber. "All confirmed Harvester command structures have been neutralized. Remaining autonomous units lack replication capacity and are being contained. No active harvester civilization remains capable of organized harvest operations. Strategic objective complete. The hall went quiet. Kale looked around. Some delegates wept. Some prayed. Some simply stared. Humanity had done it again. Not in 5 years this time. In 10. Not against a biological swarm, but against a machine civilization 7 million years old. The harvesters had processed 2,000 galaxies. Then they met humans. And the hunt ended. The council prepared a grand celebration. They wanted to honor humanity publicly. Statues were proposed. New treaties. Shared defense councils. Trade openings. Cultural exchange. Formal apologies. Humanity accepted the apologies. It declined the statues. Admiral Reyes appeared before the council one last time. "We thank the council for its trust," he said. "Human fleets will return to Terran space after containment operations conclude. We recommend maintaining early warning systems beyond the galactic rim. We also recommend that all member species update evacuation protocols and stop assuming ancient threats are gone simply because they are not currently visible." Speaker Vorik bowed his head. "Will humanity remain available to the council?" Admiral Reyes paused. "Humanity has always been available," he said. The council chose distance. No one argued. Kale stood then. He was no longer a junior diplomat. The years had changed him. His voice carried through the hall. "Admiral, may I ask one question?" "You may." For 50,000 years, no one invaded human territory because they feared what humans had done. After this war, should the galaxy still be afraid? The human admiral looked at him for a long moment. "Yes," he said. The answer moved through the chamber like ice. Then Admiral Reyes continued. "But not because we want your worlds. Not because we hate you. Not because we seek power over you. Fear us only if you plan to become a threat we cannot ignore." Kale felt the meaning settle over the room. The Admiral's voice remained calm. "Leave us in peace, and we will remain peaceful. Stand with us, and we will stand with you. Try to destroy us, and we will solve the problem." No one needed him to explain further. The session ended without applause. Some things were too heavy for applause. The next day, the gray zone on the galactic map changed. Not completely. Human territory was still marked as sovereign and restricted. But the color was no longer dead gray. It became silver. A new label appeared beside it. Terran space. Independent human territory. Entry by permission only. Protected under council recognition. Kale looked at the new map for a long time. It was still a warning. But now it was also an admission. Humanity was not outside the galaxy anymore. It was part of it. A dangerous part. A necessary part. A part no wise species would provoke. 50,000 years earlier, the Devourers had taught the galaxy what humans could do when attacked. The Harvesters had reminded everyone that the lesson had not expired. No one invaded human territory because the memory still lived. Not in books alone. Not in archives. Not in frightened whispers. It lived in military academies, where young officers still saw the Terran sectors on their first day. It lived in diplomatic training, where new delegates learned never to mistake silence for weakness. It lived in the council chamber, where the word remember no longer meant only fear. It meant caution. It meant gratitude. It meant survival. Years later, Kale returned to the Great Hall as a senior ambassador. A new junior diplomat sat where he had once sat, bright-eyed and restless, watching the star map turn. During a discussion about frontier resources, the young delegate raised a hand. "I have a question," she said. "There are rich systems near Terran space. Why do we not negotiate harder for access?" The chamber did not panic this time. No one cursed. No one prayed. Kale stood slowly. The young delegate looked at him, confused. Kale remembered Director Quent. He remembered Keeper Moran. He remembered Dr. Sarah Chung drinking coffee like she was discussing weather. He remembered the Devourer footage. The Harvester maps. The children playing under flowering trees in human space. He looked at the Silver Territory. Then he spoke the word the galaxy had carried for 50,000 years. Remember. The young diplomat waited. So Kale explained. He told her that humans were peaceful, but not harmless. He told her that their silence was not emptiness. He told her that their borders were not an invitation. He told her that long ago, the galaxy learned a lesson written in fire across 3 galaxies, and later learned it again in the dark beyond the rim. He told her that humans could be friends, allies, artists, healers, builders, dreamers, and protectors. Then he told her the final truth. There are species that conquer because they love power. There are species that destroy because they love violence. Humans are more frightening than both. Because humans do not need to love destruction to become very good at it. They only need to believe it is necessary. So the galaxy leaves human territory alone. Not because humans demand worship. Not because their fleets are always visible. Not because they shout louder than the old empires. The galaxy leaves human territory alone because every ancient race remembers the same truth. When humanity is at peace, it may be the most beautiful neighbor in the stars. But when humanity is hunted, cornered, or threatened with extinction, something ancient opens its eyes. And once humans begin to follow a trail, distance does not save you. Darkness does not hide you. Time does not protect you. They will come patiently. They will come quietly. They will come until the problem is gone. So for 50,000 years, no one invaded human territory. And after the harvesters, no one ever asked why again.